all stand tall, and we all stand proud, with our heads held high, and our spirits loud. We fought for freedom, we fought for rights, with honor and courage, we fought the good fight. We're the black soldiers, black sailors and airmen. We stood tall through the years and remember when, for our country and our people we sacrificed. Through the onslaught of war we earned our stripes. From beginning to end, we fought in every war. We fought on land, sea, and air once more. The barriers broken, we made history. We have proven our worth and our bravery. We're the black soldiers, black sailors and airmen. We stood tall through the years and remember when, for our country and our people we sacrificed. Through the onslaught of war we earned our stripes.
Prejudice and unforgettable fate, but it won't bring us down. We win the race, we rise above it. We know our worth. We're black soldiers, black sailors, and airmen first. I said we are.
We're the black soldiers, black sailors and airmen.
And we stood tall.
We stood tall through the years and
Oh
remember
yeah.
our country and our people we sacrificed.
We sacrificed.
The onslaught of war
We earned our stripes.
We honor our fallen brothers and sisters. We honor the sacrifice of the enlisters. We honor them always, both day and night. It's comfort to see the various stars and stripes.
Welcome to the first ever Bay Stars and Stripes Veterans Day initiative. This is our salute to veterans, to those men and women who've worn the cloth of the nation, who have written a blank check to the United States government, which says, up to and including my life. My name is Matt Bowman. I'm your Bay Stars and Stripes Chief of Staff. And for 2 decades, Bay Stars and Stripes has recognized the achievements of men and women in uniform. Every February, we gather to salute the achievements, the accomplishments, and the service of our men and women in uniform. We've come to you today on the platform, STEM City. STEM City is a metaverse, an opportunity for us to learn and to share, to come together as an ecosystem to salute our veterans. We have a special treat for you today. The former Chief of the Naval Operations and the former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is coming to you today to talk about our very own Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin. For those of you who don't know about General Lloyd Austin, he is a soldier, he is a husband, he is a father. He is also one of the most decorated veterans in the United States history. He was the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and he is currently the Secretary of Defense. But we're going to let Admiral Mullen tell you a little bit more about the history of the man who is our current Secretary of Defense and one of our leaders and one of our most inspirational advocates for Bay Stars and Stripes.
We are here with Admiral Michael Mullins. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Wonderful. We're very excited to have you here. And we're here talking about General Lloyd Austin. I understand that you knew him when he was in the service and you all had a special mentoring relationship. Would you care to share with us what that was?
Yeah, I've known Secretary Austin probably since about 2008 or 9. I first met him actually. He was the operational commander on the ground in Iraq, and what that means is he was in charge of all the ground forces from northern Iraq all the way up near Mosul, all the way to southern Iraq, down near Basra. And I was chairman of the Joint Chiefs at the time. We had, tens of thousands of deployed troops in Iraq in a very difficult war, and I would routinely make visits to the theater maybe once a quarter. And so I first met him, and usually I would try to get out, be with the troops on the ground, and also certainly meet the commanders. And so it's when I first met him. And I had done this for years at this point with other commanders. And I just, having met him for the first time, and I spent the better part of a day with him, I never saw anybody who had a better grasp of the overall situation and an understanding and an ability to articulate it, an ability to explain it. And I was just taken back by his level of professional excellence, his understanding, his ability to literally almost plan out loud and what was going to happen next in a very, very difficult set of circumstances. So I was, again, incredibly impressed. And when I came back to Washington, I actually picked up the phone and talked to the Chief of Staff of the Army, General George Casey. He's the senior officer in the United States Army. He runs the service, if you will. And he was a good friend. He is a good friend of mine. He was then and is now. And I asked him if General Austin was on his list. And he knew, not that there is an actual list, but the whole idea was, do you know him, and does he have a future? And basically, General Casey said that he wasn't on the list. And I told him to put him on the list. There is a hierarchy even among 4-stars. And as the senior 4-star in the United States military, I was, I gave very direct, very specific direction that I wanted to see this guy in the future. And General Casey did that. Many months later, and I actually don't remember how many, we had a rotation on my staff. General Stanley McChrystal, was being promoted to 4 stars and moving off the staff. And so creating that vacancy. And so I chose to bring General Austin in to that 3-star job, that lieutenant general job. He was a lieutenant general, but I wanted to see him up close and personal, not just have that experience that I had with him in Iraq. And so he worked for me for a significant amount of time as what I would describe as the senior 3-star on the Joint Staff. So he basically ran the staff. We're fighting 2 wars at the time, Iraq and Afghanistan. There are challenges all over the world, not limited to that. And so this job is the key 3-star job. And basically, he's the most senior person except the 4-star deputy that I had at the time. And he did an incredible job there as well. And so, and actually that model for me is something I try to do when I think someone has really got a future and I don't know them really well. I try to get them as close to me as possible so that I can make a better judgment. And from that position, because he did so well in that job, the Army then reached in and moved him to the 4-star level. And he went to a 4-star job back in Iraq. He then became the number 2 officer in the Army. We call him the vice chief. And the vice chief really runs the Army day to day. The vice chief's the one that makes the trains run on time, handles all the people issues, just even much more so than the other services. And and being in the Joint Chiefs, being chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I got to watch all of the services. Obviously, I knew my own, the Navy, but I also got to watch and learn a lot more about the other services. So the vice chief, which is a job he had, is an incredibly important job there. And then from there, he moved to Central Command and relieved General Jim Mattis. And when you're fighting 2 wars and it's focused on the Middle East, that was incredibly important. I would argue at the time the most important 4-star job at that level, what we call combatant commanders around the world. There are several of them, but that was the most important job we had. So I watched him closely. He performed magnificently. And in the end, I'm not surprised. I'm not really surprised he's in the job he's in now.
That's very powerful. And, when you're up close and personal, you really get an understanding of who he is. And that's powerful that you had that opportunity to work with him and to guide him through that process.
Well, guiding is one thing. The chairman's job is a job, like many of these senior jobs in Washington. It's almost impossible to execute, and you really need good people to do this. And we had, a very, very close relationship. I was incredibly dependent on him. Most of my life in that job was tied to the White House, to policy issues that were going on, not just in Iraq and Afghanistan, but all over the world. So, and the vice chairman, my number two, was in many ways the same. It was the same thing. So General Austin, as the director of the Joint Staff, again, he was the one that made the trains run on time across this massive organization with requirements all over the world. And he did it incredibly well. And I never thought twice about it, quite frankly, about him doing that job. I depended on him greatly. And the other thing is he found, I found him to be incredibly perceptive in terms of, studying me, watching me, learning from me. Without me, we all do this as we're coming up. We get focused on people that we respect and have time for, and we try to learn from them. Plus, he would ask tough questions about why I did something or why I didn't do something. And I think he would tell you today that he learned a lot in that job, and some of it obviously from me. So it was a great relationship. I think the world of him, as I've described the job I was in and how difficult it was, his is that much more difficult now. Extraordinarily complex, challenging. It really is 24/7, 365. And he is someone that has a great caring and empathy for the troops and their families, because that's where he grew up. And he did it in war. He fought in Afghanistan. He fought in Iraq. He lost young men and women who sacrificed their lives for our country. So he has a real heart for them, for what they're doing. And I think, in everything that he's going to do in this job, he will, in the back of his head, always have them in mind in terms of the decisions that he makes.
For Admiral Mullen, I know that accountability is his big issue. He holds everyone accountable. So let's hear a personal anecdote from Admiral Mullen about the current Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin.
I will tell you, just one short story, and this is back to my involvement with him. And, I had my own challenges in the job, and one particularly difficult situation, and I won't go into the details, but literally, and I was close to a lot of people on my staff.
Go out.
But literally nobody else sniffed it out, that I was really struggling, except Lloyd Austin. And just knowing these jobs at the top, and he'll also find this out, these jobs at the top are incredibly lonely jobs. You don't have, you have very few peers, very few people that have a clue what you're doing, and to have someone around you, and again, he wasn't at my level at the time, that perceives what I'm going through, that gave me such great comfort, and literally nobody else did at the time, and that ability to be that perceptive and that wise at that level was pretty remarkable.
That's a huge statement, sir.
Yeah.
Really, that's huge.
Yeah.
And because you don't really think about the Joint Chief having a lot of going on. You think that you got it all together and that people don't really pay attention because they think that everything's okay.
Well, everything's not okay, obviously. And it's DC is a tough spot. It's a tough spot for anybody in a significant job in Washington. And it wasn't unique to my time. It's not unique to now. It's always been that way. For those of us in uniform, when people ask me, well, what was it like going to the White House or being engaged with the White House? And I'd say, for me, great story, middle-class kid from Southern California is able to rise through this system to be the top military officer in the country. And it's a great privilege to represent 2 million men and women who serve. And at the same time, you walk into the White House, and you are it. You're the single person in uniform at the time, and this is me, in the military. It's the moon. I haven't operated in this environment. I haven't, and you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the White House doing politics 24/7, 365. They're looking for good political policy outcomes, and you are there to give your best advice, to stay out of the politics, to be apolitical, and then to march off when the president makes a decision. That is a different environment, and there's no preparation. There isn't any preparation for that except really hard jobs, because you don't work. There's no training job, there to see the environment in which you are going to work. Now, Secretary Austin he is doing the same thing. It's certainly the first time he will have been to the White House. It's that same environment. He's in a different situation because he's a civilian. He's a political appointee of this president, and he's certainly expected to carry out the agenda of, President Biden and this administration. That's different. What isn't different is the land he's walking into that he hasn't been before. And he's not unique in that regard. There's a first time for everybody. In this case, going in at that level, it just makes it that much more challenging.
And I think he's up for it, according to you.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
What is one thing, and a final question, what is one thing outside of his exemplary military service that people should know about him?
He is, we've talked earlier about, the whole issue of representation, minority representation in the military. And we're clearly, this last year, and I mentioned coming up through the 60s and the 70s, but this last year has been, a jolting year with respect to so much, including race. And even for me, who, I've been engaged on these issues, my whole career, it was still a very, very much a learning experience about what I didn't know. And I guess what I'd want you to know about Lloyd Austin is he is aware of that. He knows the significance of his position with respect to being the first Black Secretary of Defense in our history. And he knows better than I, the history of race in this country per se. That said, one of the messages that I want to convey as far and as wide as possible is this is not a Black man's problem. This is a white man's problem. And so, yes, he's Black, and yes, he's a Secretary of Defense. But for all of us to just say, okay, now that we have a Black Secretary of Defense, he can fix these issues. That is not true. He has a lived experience, which can inform so many leaders that didn't have that. I talked earlier about what Charlie Bolden's life was versus mine. That lived experience is invaluable. And the same is true for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, who's the first Black service chief, General C.Q. Brown. But my expectation is this is a white man's problem that because we've been in these power positions literally throughout our history, have great responsibility to address, make change, and carve out a better future, to be assisted greatly by somebody like Lloyd Austin. And he's also responsible for getting this right in the military right now. But we cannot just lay it all on him at this point to try to fix it. It's something we have to work on in the military and quite frankly, in the country. And he's up for it. He'll do that. I talk these difficult times that we're in, it's really important, quite frankly, for everybody to pitch in, not just one or two or a few individuals. The challenge is huge. It's historic. It goes back 400 years. It is not going to be solved overnight. And yes, we've made progress, but if anything on racism, became very visible last year, it's the miles to go. We got a long way to go here. And I believe, and I hope I'm right, that we are at an inflection point in this country where we can really dig in and create the opportunities that will put the United States of America and all of our people in a much better place in the future.
Admiral Michael Mullins, thank you very much for your honesty, your sincerity, and your humanity.
Thank you, Marcia. It's good to be with you.
Thank you very much.
Admiral Mullen, thank you, sir, for those inspiring words and for sharing those personal stories about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. I have some new leaders who are about to come on to the show. It's my honor and privilege to introduce a former BEA Stars and Stripes Senior Executive Service winner, Miss Renata Spinks. She's an cybersecurity. She's a veteran. She's a soldier. She's worked in industry. Just an accomplished leader. We also are going to welcome Captain Madeline Means. Captain Madeline Means has spent over 30 years in the United States Navy. She has seen the Navy culture change and grow and shift. She's an expert in intelligence, and in her retired life, she is in the great state of Alabama, about to go into agriculture and farming. So I want to welcome you both. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So we're going to talk about leadership. And as we all know, leadership matters. So Ms. Spinks, if you would tell us, what are your top three leadership principles that you lead with?
I'll tell you, Matt, following Admiral Mullen, that's a hard one because he's got so many great nuggets in there, from, being relatable for humanity's sake and understanding that you got to have tough conversations, all the way to being able to be mentored, even at the senior level. So I will say I'll add a few things to things he already talked about. But for me, some of those lessons that I learned was teamwork and to keep swimming. I have Marine civilians and in uniform, out of uniform. Sometimes they retired out of the military and came back to serve as civilians. And sometimes you had someone like me within the Marine Corps who came from the Army or, another federal service. And being able to build that cohesivity and let everyone know that we're all here fighting the fight, but to do that in a manner that was more empathetic and not very hierarchical, even though we had the respect of the ranks, but being able to just let people know that we're a team and we're here together. I think that was the biggest piece for me. Visibly being the first everything in the Marine Corps, the first cyber technology officer, the first senior executive. As a Black woman, it is not lost on me how many little young girls can look at me and say, hey, I can be that too. But it's also important to know that there's some boys out there that can do cyber and join the military ranks. So I also looked at leadership as a way to continue to be that example. I'm always on. We are always on. And that doesn't mean to be afraid of the spotlight. I see that as an opportunity to continue to not only just mold the lives of generations to come, but to also learn from people who look like me, don't look like me, work in the senior executive ranks, maybe not. I mean, I learned a lot from some of my employees that worked for me too. So I'd sum it up to say, keep swimming, never stop learning, and always remember that, bet on yourself, be your authentic self, but we can't ever do anything by ourselves.
Well, Ms. Spinks, as veterans, we work in teams, and you talked about molding teams. Can you elaborate for those in the audience who've never been in uniform, who've never worn the cloth of the nation, but who have a deep and abiding respect for the work that we do? What are some of the ways that you mold and inspire young men and women to continue to put their life on the line and continue to serve their country and to stay in uniform?
I will tell you, mission first. As long as we think about the mission first, and that's not something you can learn. That thing is intestinally part of you, right? It's something that wakes you up in the morning. It helps you sleep at night. And knowing that I'm going to serve on a team and I'm going to be in a foxhole with someone who's there for the same reason that I am, to continue to serve this great nation, but to also protect those who are back home. Most of the time it's back home when we're serving all across the world. And we're thinking about some of the simple things like being able to be part of functions like BEA and log onto the internet and not have some concerns. I'm a cyber girl first, so not have concerns of security, and being able to take care of our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our sisters and our brothers, and being able to know that you are part of something that is globally. There's a satisfaction that comes over me. It makes me cry when I think about the impact that I am making just to the world, whether that's in Georgia, whether that's in Alabama, no matter where you are. When you are serving your country, that is a level of gratification and satisfaction that you can only experience by serving. And so that's why we got to serve. And serving is about selfless service. And it's something that can come so naturally to you. Doesn't have to take a whole lot of anything, just raising your right hand and doing the things that you're doing every day already.
That's it.
You're committed to being safe every day. You're not a criminal. You're not, out here doing bad things, so you go to jail. So come on in and do that and get paid for it. It makes sense.
Well, Ms. Spinks, you always bring the words of wisdom. You always bring the heat with you. I have on the line Captain Madeline Means. And when I first met Captain Means, I was a young Lieutenant JG flying jets in Whidbey Island, and she was a young officer there. And so I've known her and watched and admired her career. We talk about mentors, and frequently you talk about mentors who are senior to you. Admiral Mullen alluded to that. He also alluded to mentors that are junior to you. But I can tell you, some of my biggest mentors have been those who are my peers. And Captain Means, can you talk about that peer mentorship that happens in uniform so that people who are watching this who've never been in the military can get an understanding of how we mentor each other as peers? And if you have any examples, would love to hear it.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you. It's an honor to be on this panel, Ms. Spinks. I think we went to the same leadership school. So it's an honor to be here with you, and you inspire me. I want to raise my hand again if they take it.
Me too.
Right. And so in speaking about mentoring and peer mentoring, I think that is what got me through my career. You are in the same position, as Ms. Spinks said, in that same foxhole with your shipmates. And so the lessons that you learn on a day-to-day basis through leadership, through observance, through people mentoring up and those mentoring down, you spread that across and create a bigger and better and stronger team for, what did you say? You said the mission, and that's mission first.
Wonderful, wonderful. You've also served overseas. I know you served in Canada, you served in Hawaii, you served across the Pacific. You really served worldwide. Can you talk about, as a veteran, cross-cultural leadership, leading people who may not be Americans, they may be allies in foreign nations? Because we frequently, as veterans, don't talk about that, but we're a coalition of allies.
I think the best leaders are continuous learners. Also, the best leaders are patient. They're listening. They're inclusive. So that directly plays into leading across different cultures, whether it's a foreign culture or a, hey, I'm from Alabama. I'm a country girl that was raised around cows and pigs. I don't have the same culture as some of my peers that were raised in the Northeast. And so even within our United States military, we have different cultures. So keeping an open mind, listening, and making this journey about something that's bigger than self.
I love it. And, Bay of Stars and Stripes is an ecosystem. It's a place where all of us can come together, whether you're in cybersecurity like Ms. Spinks, or intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance like Captain Means. The Bay of Stars and Stripes community, it spans from the eldest who served, almost 90, down to the newest midshipmen who we were with, actually new ensigns now who were with last night. So I want to thank you both. I mean, having your perspective, I want to salute you on this Veterans Day, and I want you to enjoy it, continue to represent, and make us all proud.
Thank you, Matt, for having us.
Thank you, Matt, for having us. And happy birthday to the Marine Corps as well. Hoorah.
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 All right. Well, now we are going to bring you another treat. Admiral Mullen talked about the Navy and his leadership of the Navy. And while Admiral Mullen was leading the Navy, during his career, his 40-year career, he had the opportunity to witness some historic achievements. Some of those historic achievements happened in the submarine community. Those silent warriors who sail underneath the seas, who go down for months at a time to ensure that there is a nuclear deterrence, but also to ensure that there's an attack submarine community. So if you've ever wanted to learn about submarines, I want you to stay tuned and learn about the fantastic history of the Centennial Seven. The Centennial Seven are the first 7 African-American men who commanded submarines during the 20th century. They have an inspiring story from my personal mentor, number 1, number 3, number 5, number 6, and 7. So these leaders are personal mentors to me. So I want you to pay close attention and listen to the history of the Centennial Seven.
Leading a team in that environment, it's a challenge in and of itself. And I won't cop out by that as the answer. But when you think about taking a nuclear reactor and a piece of steel and bringing it underwater, that's just the cost of getting there. And it's not how the wiring is inherently as a submariner. You want to deliver and continue to deliver. And that's how you brought up through the ranks to your task, accomplish the mission, deliver the goods, and rinse, repeat.
Well, I think you keep the mission focused by your interaction with the crew you're leading and keeping them informed of the importance of the mission and what you expect of them for what you're about to do or what you're doing.
And so taking whatever opportunity comes your way and then going and doing the most with it and the very best you can with it, even if your background is like so many of ours. I mean, I didn't know anything about the Navy. I didn't know anything about submarines. And I probably could have tried to refuse to go into submarines, but it turned out to be the absolute best thing I could have ever done.
African Americans have a long history of naval service. First, with state and continental navies, and then with the United States Department of the Navy in 1798. Since then, Black Americans have continued to distinguish themselves ashore on ships, aircraft, and submarines through times of peace and conflict. Today's African American sailors stand proudly, knowing the accomplishments of their predecessors, including the sailors who earned the Medal of Honor during the Civil War, Dick Henry Turpin, one of the survivors of the explosion aboard the battleship Maine, and the Black female yeoman who enlisted during World War I. The U.S. Navy planted the seed for racial integration during World War II and trained a generation of outstanding Black officers and enlisted personnel who provided critical leadership and expertise during the Cold War. As trailblazers meeting the challenge during the 1960s and 1970s, African Americans began commanding ships, submarines, and shore establishments. In 1974, the Navy issued its first Equal Opportunity Manual and issued its first Affirmative Action Plan 2 years later. And now, as in previous periods, Black officers and enlisted personnel have continued to stand out among the Navy's best and brightest, gaining recognition in their roles as trailblazers. Since the United States Submarine Force was established in 1900, only 7 African Americans had held command of a submarine by 2000, which marked the first 100 years, centennial, of U.S. Submarine Force history. In this rare group photograph taken at the Bay of STEM Conference, the 7 stand in the order they took command. From left to right, Captain Pete Toms, 1983, USS Houston. Rear Admiral Tony Watson, 1987, USS Jacksonville. Captain Will Bundy, 1988, USS Barble. Vice Admiral Mel Williams, 1994, USS Nebraska. Captain Joe Peterson, 1994, USS Dolphin. Admiral Cecil Haney, 1996, USS Honolulu. And Vice Admiral Bruce Grooms, 1997, USS Asheville. C.A. Pete Toms, the first African American to command a nuclear-powered Navy submarine in 1983, died in June 2019. While serving as commander of the Recruit Training Command, Great Lakes, one of the Navy's boot camps, Captain Toms won the Black Engineer Award for Affirmative Action in 1991. Dr. William F. Bundy, who won a 1993 Black Engineer of the Year Award for Outstanding Achievement in Government, died December 2019 at 73. He was responsible for several midshipmen being admitted to the Naval Academy and the highest number of applicants admitted to the broadened opportunities for officer selection and training, the BOOST program. In this archived pre-COVID-19 interview, Career Communications Group sat down with retired Rear Admiral Tony Watson, retired Vice Admiral Mel Williams, retired Admiral Cecil Haney, and retired Admiral Bruce Grooms at a BAYASTEM Conference Stars and Stripes event. Captain Joe Peterson was not available for an interview. Also taking part in the interview were retired Navy Captain Richard R. Bryant and Captain Melvin Smith, former Division Chief of the Joint Staff, Strategic Deterrence and Nuclear Policy. These men represent a new generation of submariners mentored by the Centennial Seven.
In the United States military, it became what's called an all-volunteer force in the year 1972. That means that you had to raise your right hand and you wanted to be there to be in the military. Well, the United States Submarine Force was started in the year 1900, and from the very beginning, everyone had to be a volunteer. So the United States Submarine Force is the original all-volunteer force.
The first black commanding officer of a submarine was Pete Toms. He spells his name T-Z-O-M-E-S, but he pronounces it Toms. We lost Pete this last year in 2019, but he was the first amongst us. He graduated from the Naval Academy in 1967 and went through some very challenging times in a very unique, small, representative 6% typically of the Navy are submarine folks, 6%. And he was the first out there when no one else, no other African American was out there. That itself was a challenge, as it is for any minority in a group where you're one of tens of thousands of people. But he worked hard, not just to deal with that issue, but to overcome it. And part of Pete's attitude was, as he dealt with these challenges of first having to know all these things about nuclear physics and thermodynamics, navigation, weaponry, all those things we have to know to operate a submarine. He had to deal with all this information that he needed to know, and then he had to deal with those other challenges that he had in a what we call an officer corps. And on submarine, there's in the dining facility a room we call the ward room that derives from the Navy days of old, when on pirate ships they used to put stuff they captured, the ward that they captured in this room, and that's where the officers eat and gather. And he was always just the only one there. So Pete viewed that as not a challenge because he was the only African American, but as an opportunity to teach other people what being African American and competent and qualified to operate a submarine was all about. So he's always now and always will be number one. We call him number one of the Centennial Seven. He'll always be here as number one. We'll always know him as that. And the man put up with a lot to help pave the way for the rest of us. Just an amazing man. Chancellor A. Pete, we called him, Toms.
Once again, I'd like to provide a little perspective. When you step back and look at what has transpired, the commissioning source for many officers in the United States Navy is the United States Naval Academy. The U.S. Naval Academy was established in the year 1845. In the first 124 years of the Naval Academy, that's all the way to 1969, there were only 35 African Americans that graduated from the Naval Academy, 35. Captain Pete Toms was one of those 35. So big picture, not only was he the first African American to command a submarine, he's one of the first 35 African Americans to graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy. The second African American to command a submarine was Tony Watson, to my left. He graduated in the year 1970. Okay, that's the year after that first group of 35. So these are trailblazers, is what I'm communicating to you. And I just remember as Ensign Williams, who graduated from the Naval Academy in 1978, I was walking at the submarine base, Groton, Connecticut, and there was a screech that came from a window in one of the quarters. And it was Pete Toms. It was Commander Pete Toms. And so I stopped in my tracks, and I found myself summoned and had a session with him. First introduction to Captain Pete Toms. He was a commander at the time. And I think Admiral Haney had a similar thing where we're there. But basically, number one, pulled in us as ensigns, talked to us about being an officer, submarine force, etc. And throughout our careers, he touched our lives and helped us along the way. So being number one was special. And I just remember Pete Toms with that screech. He's got a fiery spirit, and you knew when he was talking to you.
We had the uniqueness of meeting Captain Pete Toms when we were very junior in the business. We had finished nuclear power school and its prototype, and we were now into through the training of our basic submarine officer course. And that was the first meet. I didn't know him before. And quite frankly, the whole thing of submarines was relatively new to me. But I'll tell you, this energetic individual, you could tell right off the bat, was technically and operationally smart. And he drilled into us a motivational speech that quite frankly carried us through the rest of our career, you might say. It was in some regards candid, and yes, you can do this, but it was, you will do this and you will do it well and stick to what you've learned, and quite frankly, so we were awestruck. I was awestruck at just the opportunity to see him at that stage, at the very beginning of your business of becoming an officer in a submarine.
Wow, unbelievable. You know, in the military, command at sea is the highest responsibility that you can have. It doesn't matter whether you're in the aviation community or you're in the surface community, but especially in the submarine community, when only two men or women, two people, have the power to put their finger on the red button and in the world that we know it. It's a great responsibility, unparalleled in human history. And those Centennial 7, those 7 men held that responsibility. It's not just nuclear weapons, it's also special operations. So when you hear about SEAL Team 6 and Devron groups and other attack units that use special forces, know that submarine community is integrally involved in that. So we talked about the Centennial 7, but we also have one of our next gen leaders. And it's my honor to bring to you today Captain Roger Isom. Captain Isom is number 9. That's what we call him, number 9. He commanded the USS Wisconsin in Kings Bay, Georgia. He is a husband, a father. He's a tremendous leader. And in this BEA ecosystem, we bring together those lonely moments that happen, not just for Admiral Mullen, but also for other leaders at sea in business and industry. And we bring them together in an ecosystem. And that's what BEA is all about. So welcome, Captain Roger Isom.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Well, sir, can you speak a little bit? I mean, I know you know all 7 of them at the deepest levels. Can you talk a little bit about them as people and them as leaders and their impact on your life?
Yeah, you know, I got a little choked up just watching the video about the Centennial 7. A theme that really drives me when it comes to leadership, I call it making leadership personal. And it's about having a deeper connection with the purpose and the people in your organization. And the Centennial 7, they've inspired me, they've influenced me to believe what I thought was impossible, being the commanding officer of a submarine and doing it well. And so when I see them, I know each one of them. They've inspired me, they've challenged me, and just by their exemplary performance, competence, knowing their job, and hearing other people talk about them, and not saying they were great Black officers, but saying they were good officers, I'd be willing to go to battle with. I'm getting a little choked up because that's what their legacy means for me. And that's what I intend to do with future generations, is honor them by paying it forward the way they inspired me.
Well, it's our chance to really capture the narrative. So what I'd ask is, tell us one unknown fact about each one, and we'll start with number 1. We'll start with number 1 and go all through all 7.
Yeah, number 1, Pete Toms, met him at the Naval Academy, and like me, when he came to visit Naval Academy, I learned we had something in common. Our initial goal was to be a Marine Corps pilot, and we changed our minds and became submariners basically at the last minute. Pete Toms, because of his height and hands ratio, he couldn't be a pilot, and so he kind of dropped into the submarine force. Same for me. I wanted to be a pilot, and then by meeting another Centennial 7 Grooms, then Lieutenant Bruce Grooms, I decided to become a submariner. So that's 2 of them. Dr. Bundy, oh my God, Dr. Bundy, super smart. And he would always encourage me, Roger, take care of your people, because he was prior enlisted and I was prior enlisted for 1 year. So it's not just about taking care of the mission, but also taking care of your people. Admiral Tony Watson, what I liked about him was, he was handsome. And one thing we have in common is we were both bald. And so he made me realize is that don't let that stop you. And I like how he always referred to me. This is the personal side. My nickname is Ice, and he would always call and check in on me. Hey, Ice, how's it going? And to be truthful, at about the 10-year point, I thought about getting out. I didn't have a great experience with one of my 7 submarines, and I was going to get out. And Admiral Watson called me, and we had a great conversation, and I stayed in for another 17 years. So that's him. Joe Peterson, which you may not know about him, very physically athletic, great shape. So not only was he competent technically, but he took care of his body, took care of himself. I mentioned Admiral Grooms, but last but not least, let's go with Admiral Haney. When you talk about humility, this is one of the most humble officers I've ever been around. He went on to make 4 stars, but he did not forget where he came from. And that's what I tried to embody in my leadership. Don't forget where you came from. People are people, no matter what their rank, no matter what their background is. So as you see, I have a personal connection with all of them in terms of our common purpose, but also our deep connection with taking care of our people.
Well, I've had the privilege, I'm coming from the aviation side, but I've had the privilege of working with some great submarine officers. And number 4, as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you this quick story about number 4 that I've never told anyone. So, he's an author. He's a multi-generation sailor. And so I was at a convention. And at the last minute when I was working in the Navy, I asked him to come speak. And he was coming to speak to a group of Congress people and top leaders in America. And I was sweating bullets. I had never heard him speak. I'd only heard him analyze and critique and be very pensive. And he got on that stage, and I tell you what, he rocked the house. The crowd was up in arms. Everybody was clapping, and he came down. I said, "Sir, great job, great job." He said, "Matt, you say that like you think I couldn't do it." But I tell you what, he's a fantastic officer, fantastic leader. I mean, those guys can do it all. They can do the social, they can do the athletic, and they absolutely can do the academic and the technical piece. So just an honor to meet them.
Yeah, man, I apologize, man. I forgot to mention, last but not least, Admiral Williams. So Admiral Williams and I, we're of the 7. Admiral Williams commanded a nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine in Nebraska, and I will follow in his footsteps to command the USS Wyoming. So that's our connection as ballistic missile submarine COs.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Sir, the other thing is, can you give the audience a sense of what is it like being underwater for months at a time? And what's it like to have that power, that finger on the button? Tell us what's this like.
Yeah, the reason I joined the Navy, I wanted to be an astronaut. So my goal was to be an astronaut and go to Mars. And so I didn't become an astronaut, but I became a hydronaut. And to me, being on a submarine, it's just fascinating to be on a warship. That's also your home. It's where you sleep, you work, and you bond with other people. And so for me, I just love that environment. I don't need to see the sun. I grew up on a farm, so I got plenty of sun. But to be able to be on that submarine and realize, we're all in this together. We ride together and we dive together. I said dive, not die. Okay. And so I just like the environment. It's close. You can't hide from each other. You all have to work together. You depend on each other. And the longest time I've been submerged is 88 days. And I could have gone another 88 days because once again, it's a common purpose, and the people working towards that common purpose, it just motivates me. I just enjoy that environment. It's hard work, but it's hard work that's worthwhile. And I think one of the things I want to add is, my mom and dad worked hard. She was a maid. My dad was a carpenter, and they didn't get rewarded for their hard work. So I had nothing to complain about. A great job, great mission, great people, and a bright future after the submarine force. So I hope that answers your question. As far as the power, it's enormous power, but with enormous power comes enormous responsibility. And we accomplish our mission by not having to, thank God, launch those missiles. It's about deterrence.
Well, sir, when you speak to mission and service, that dovetails right into legacy. So right now, we're going to play a short video on the legacy of the Centennial 7.
I am amongst the Centennial 7 part of the next generation, along with Mel Smith. And so I'm uniquely positioned where, as I was coming up as a junior officer, I had the opportunity to get to know the Centennial 7 very well. The man to my left was a company officer at the Naval Academy when I was a midshipman, just as I was a company officer when Mel was a midshipman. I went on to become the admiral aide to our first Black submarine admiral, Tony Watson, once upon a time. And the other three, we have intermingled and intermixed, as well as the two who aren't here right now. So I consider myself extremely blessed to be kind of the connection between the Centennial 7 and the next generation. There's obvious lessons that I gained from conversations and mentorship from the Centennial 7. One of the things I was thinking, I think there was a question floating around and said, what would you tell your 21-year-old self if you had the chance to talk to them? And one of the things that came to mind was don't discount the struggle too much. And what I mean by that is without that struggle, it would not inform you and prepare you to help other people. It would be perfect if every time we got underway, the weather was good, the meal was good, and we had fair seas. But that's not life. And in accomplishing that, it's important to have the things that buttress resilience and prove to you that you can deal with the challenges as they come. Second thing is to be active and available.
So I think one of the challenges that kind of goes with integration in general is when you integrate people and things, sometimes we sort of do it one person at a time or one or two at a time. And so oftentimes we think it's me individually against the world because I don't always have someone else to talk to. We don't know what path we'll be on and where we'll be led. And so taking whatever opportunity comes your way and then going and doing the most with it and the very best you can with it, even if your background is like so many of ours. I mean, I didn't know anything about the Navy. I didn't know anything about submarines. And I probably could have tried to refuse to go into submarines, but it turned out to be the best thing I could have ever done. And then part of the beauty of the experience, I think, was that we learned this really special skill, and frankly, lots of these skill sets carry over into other parts of life, the business world, you name it. It's not just submarines, but one thing I learned was that in the roles that we served, you are watched so closely. Everything you do is watched by the crew, by everyone inside and outside. So you have to be confident, competent, and you have to know your job because they can tell when you're confident and you know what you're doing, and then you go do it. But the other part of this life is that submarining, like so many things, it's inherently all about the people that you work with and the people that you lead. And frankly, all the commanders are about the same, but the sailors watch you and then they decide how they're going to support you and help you. But the difference is in how you lead your folks so that they do tell you the things that you need to know. And so part of our life is how do you engage the people with whom you work, because they really can make all the difference in the quality of your submarine, the quality of your life, the quality of your job, and the quality of everything in which you are involved down the road.
So, Bay of Stars and Stripes, becoming everything you are, is all about legacy. It's 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We have this platform, STEM City, which is unique in the world. But when you talk about legacy, at the end of the day, it's about people. So I have you on, Captain Roger Eisen. We're going to bring Mr. Eric Bell, a Navy veteran who's also in the state of Georgia. He's our surprise guest for you. He's the youngest legislature ever elected in the state of Georgia. He's a veteran, and he is a part of the legacy of naval excellence, of honor, courage, and commitment. So it's an honor to have you on, sir, and welcome to this call.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. As a mentee, coming from a mentor, it means a lot to be here, as well as with you, Mr. Isom. Thank you for both of you for your services to the United States Navy, and not only serving as models of Black officership and what it can truly be.
Excellent, sir. And Roger, you don't know this, but I brought him on because I know that you served and led in Kings Bay, Georgia. And like I say, he's a superstar doing great things in Georgia. So if you can talk, Captain Isom, about legacy, about the legacy of the Centennial 7, what does it look like for new officers who are about to enter into the submarine community? And then Representative Bell, if you can talk about legacy as well, what do the children in Georgia need to hear from us so that they can be inspired to follow into your footsteps and also into Captain Isom's footsteps? So over to you, Roger.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Congressman. Great to see you. Congratulations. I just want to emphasize, I have a passion for this. I'm heading down to Tuskegee tomorrow for a joint military ball. Next week, I'm going to go and watch a person from Kings Bay, Georgia, become a nurse, get commissioned as a nurse. If I can be frank, there is a leadership gap in this country. And we need the next generation, your generation, Eric, to take the mantle now, to use your time wisely, to use your peers' time wisely, to get ready for next. And next is now. I really believe we need a new generation, a new crop of ethical and effective leaders that can lead diverse people in this country. And so I want to challenge anyone, whether you want to serve on a submarine, serve in an organization, serve in your community, please, we need you to take the mantle and lead from the front.
Wow, such inspiring words, Captain Isom. The Air Force, I think, just missed goal for the first time since 1946. The Army and an all-volunteer force, we have to get the young people into service. We have to get our children into physical fitness, into academic excellence, keep them away from things that might impact their security clearance. But Representative Bell, he's no kidding at ground zero, and he talks to these young people every day. So Representative Bell, can you speak as a leader, as a Navy veteran? What would you say on this Veterans Day to the youth?
One thing I would say to the youth is don't give up. Where you are now isn't a determinant of where you will be in the future. But your destiny also doesn't pop out of thin air. It's literally a step by step, a brick by brick monument of what you've done and what you will do with your time and the opportunities that you have. So you just don't arrive at destiny. It's something that you build and that is actively being built. Something and another tidbit that I would give to the youth and current and current my peers and everyone out there is that to remain hopeful. Hope is something that oftentimes isn't a tangible thing. It is an idea, but everything's an idea. At one point in time, the United States of America was just an idea, and it started with 13 colonies, something that I'm proud to say that Georgia has a legacy of being one of the first of always defending the American Constitution, and it continues to defend the Constitution both domestically and abroad with the sub base in Kings Bay. So leaning on legacy and hope is something that we all need to do, especially our youth, because with legacy comes knowledge, and with that knowledge comes opportunities to be better.
Wow, well, we're going to let that be the last words. leading with legacy and hope. So I want to thank you all for joining us on this first ever Black Engineer of the Year Awards Stars and Stripes episode. We are available online. We're available in the metaverse, but we're also available live and in person. So February 15th to 17th, we'll be at the Baltimore Convention Center. I want to thank all of our panelists and all of our speakers. Safe travels to you, Captain Isom, sir, as you travel to Tuskegee. Thank you, Representative Bell, for joining us today. And remember, we're always available 365 days a year in the metaverse. We'll see you soon.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard.
We all stand tall and we all stand proud, with our heads held high and our spirits loud. We fought for freedom.
One thing you guys
we
didn't know
fought
that
for right. With honor and courage, we fought the good fight.
We're the black soldiers, black sailors and airmen. We stood tall through the years and remember when for our country and our people we sacrificed. Through the onslaught of the war we earned our stripes.
From beginning to end, we fought in every war. We fought on land, sea, and air once more. The barriers broken, we made history. We have proven our worth and our bravery.
We're the black soldiers, black sailors and airmen. We stood tall through the years and remember when for our country and our people we sacrificed. The onslaught of war, we earned our stripes.
Prejudice, an unforgettable fate, but it won't bring us down. We win the race, we rise above it. We know our worth, we're black soldiers, black sailors, and airmen first. I said we are.
We're the black soldiers, black sailors,
and we stood tall.
We stood tall through the years and
Oh
remember
yeah.
our country and our people we sacrificed.
We sacrificed.
The onslaught of the war,
We earned our stripes.
We honor our fallen brothers and sisters. We honor the sacrifice of the enlisters. We honor them always, both day and night. It's comfort to see the various stars and stripes.
You're crazy.
Awesome job.